I believe we're live, which is fine because I don't believe anyone is here. But if someone watches this back, they will want to know that I'm interesting and exciting, which, a couple of those things are true. Why are we here? I hear you ask, and by here, I perceive you asking. Um, we're here largely to create tiki mug. Uh, so, what does this entail? Well, currently, I'm just going to check whether the stream is live. Don't mind me. Uh, normally, I will create a tiki mug in silence and purity, uh, but I thought I'd do it on a live stream, so I'll actually get it done. So I've now put out the call to action by which a single Instagram story, which helps. Okay, that is out now. Now let us commence to modelling. So tiki mugs. There are many questions around tiki mugs and why to model them in a 3D space. Firstly, I hate clay. In all of its facets, I really don't like using it because it's messy. And I, by my very nature, am a messy person. So I try not to use it. Instead, what we've got here is a blank. Basically, it's tiki mug shaped. And it's just some very simple geometry. It's literally just a cylinder in 3D space. But from this, a tiki mug will form. Hopefully, we shall see what happens. So first things I've got to do is I really just want to rough out some shapes. Just as the episode of The Simpsons in which Marge created a Homer through the use of just circles and squares and things, I shall hopefully create the outline of a tiki mug using just the same. Also, if you can hear in the background, apologies if you can hear a sort of a rumbling type of noise. That is a 3D printer, and it is currently on a print job that is unrelated to the creation of a tiki mug. What tiki mug are you going to create? I hear you scream, and by hear you scream, I don't hear anyone scream. Well, I'm going to create a pelican. Now, you'll have to use your imagination for this, MBs, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not going to show any pelicans on this screen. And the reason for that is because I have no idea what copyright strikes YouTube will throw, and I don't want to find out. But basically, I'm going to create a pelican. It's going to be basically just head and shoulders as the visage in which you see before you. And it'll have its long beak that'll pretty much go down to there-ish. And possibly I'll have a fish coming out of the beak because it will have just eaten said fish. So what I'm doing now is basically giving myself enough geometry to rough out a shape. So I'm going to rough out most of this in the edit mode, and then I'll go back into the sculpt mode. But I really just want to sort of understand what I'm playing with first. So here we've got basically a bunch of rings in the object. All of these yellow things, if you don't know, keyframes. So I can grab one of them and, change the geometry around by grabbing one of them and moving it and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not going to do that yet because I want to kind of understand how this mug's going to come together first. So basically we've got the end of the beak here and we've got the kind of start of the beak up here. I might just move these a little bit further down. That's too far. And then we're going to, in fact, I'm going to move these right up because I think I'll actually use these as the hat. Also, if anyone's actually on this thing, and why should anyone actually be on this stream? Because this is basically me using a stream to entice myself to actually work. But if you're actually on this stream, apologies, I don't really have the chat up. I'm sort of got other windows open and things. So if there is someone watching live, I apologise for not being a good streamer and talking with you. Okay, I think we're almost. Let's put a couple more. Let's. Right, so we're going to use this section as the hat, because I should say this pelican is also going to be a sailor pelican. It's going to be a section of the hat. I think this section will be the head. I will create one more lot of rings, and then we will commence to moulding. And this set will be, so I've got hat there, we've got head there. This is going to be the kind of neck. Because if you know your pelicans, pelicans kind of have skinny necks. Now, obviously, this is going to be not a lifestyle, completely lifelike pelican. It will be a unlifeless. Please strike the last sentence from the record. It will be not like a lifelike pelican. Okay, so we have hat, we have head, we have sort of beak area. Also, this pelican is going to have shoulders, even though traditionally pelicans do not, because I want to give this pelican tattoos. Because it is a sailor pelican. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to bring in some of this. That was too much. You'll see me do a lot of undoing in this stream. Like that. Because I want this to be uniform. Okay. So that will do for the hat. And then we're also going to bring in, I think we're going to bring in all of this. And then that will be the head. One thing about tiki mugs is what you want in a tiki mug, I think, is you want a sense of, it's still got to be a mug. So you don't want to get too wild in the aspect. There's some things I'll do at the end of this to make it more mug-like, and that'll probably be on a different stream, because today is really just making it look like a pelican. Did I want to do that? Yeah, I think I do. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is just undo some of what we've done. We're going to undo that largely by eyeballing. So this is going to be my beak. And that is going to be my beak too. Okay. That's too much of a beak. Actually, what I might do... Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm going to move this ring up a little bit. That's going to give me some more headroom on my beak. Okay, let us commence to creating beaks. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab probably just these. I don't want too much of a segment here. And I'm going to move it out. This gets slightly tedious and technical in some respects. All right, I'm going to go back to playing with these. Okay. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so that is our beak. Now, has it gone slightly sideways? Let's find out. No, it hasn't. Okay, cool. We'll also move, I think, these ones here because we want probably more beak. Okay, so this is now our, I think, everything that we need to do in this sculpting menu. Now, we could give the pelican a little bit more of a pronounced back of the head, which could be useful. Could be useful just to give it a little bit more back of head. All right. I feel like that's too much back of head. Yeah, okay. So again, this needs to be a mug. So at some stage, the idea is that it's got some sort of, internal consistency and doesn't fall over when you use it as a mug. All right, so let's take a look. In this, we've got the hat, we've got the head. Head will probably compress a little bit, but we'll do that a bit later. You've got the beak, and the other thing that we should actually do at this point is I'm going to give it. I'm going to give this this bird here some shoulders. So I think we're going to pull out some shoulders here. In fact, I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to include these ones as well. So this will be a little bit anthropomorphic, but this bird is going to have shoulders. So we'll just do that. I feel like actually, no, let's do it properly. Okay, so that's the start of some shoulders. Now you can see here that already this is starting to get a bit weird because this is not matching up. And, as we go through the sculpting process, it will get weirder. But happily, this tiki mug will have additional bits and pieces to allow it to actually work as a tiki mug. But we'll get to that later. All right, let's commence the sculpting. Okay, so sculpting in Blender. The cool thing about Blender is you can draw on things. So, and I've already messed things up by drawing on them too much. But what we want to do here is to give ourselves a little bit more ability to draw. So what we're going to do is to create basically some boxes. I don't know what the actual proper name of that is. That'll do. So this is very low resolution, but hopefully what we'll be able to see now is that, as you can see, I can start to sculpt this thing properly. So let's commence the sculpting. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, I think, is define some shapes. So pelicans have thin necks, and so we're going to have to imply that. So basically, I'm going to want to bring the beak out to be fairly wide. In fact, we might do that in the edit mode. We might bring out its beak a little bit more. We might pinch it's better. We might pinch its beak in. One of these things, as I said, there's a lot of undoing in this, and a lot of saving as well, which is fortuitous, although I probably won't save on this stream. I don't know why, but it seems like the right thing to do is to not show how to save things in blind. It doesn't matter. Okay. Right, so let's take a look. So what I want to do, I think, this is the central nose, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this right for a start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the central beaky bit and which is pretty much those three, and I'm going to increase them. So you'll see there that that beak is embiggened, and that's on purpose because that'll mean that the contours of the beak kind of act beakily. I've been saying beak a lot on this stream. Okay, let's take a look. I feel like that's coming together. I feel like that's okay. All right. Commence to sculpting. Okay. Right. So we want to get a kind of a medium. So these squares is the smallest sort of editable region for this. So if I pull something out here, you'll see that it pulls out kind of quite linearly. Is that even a word? Doesn't matter. And now we kind of need to be a little bit bold. We kind of need to start really chopping in and smoothing out and all that sort of stuff. So I think what we're going to do first is we're going to do a round of smoothing. And that will give us... Oh, actually, no, you know what? I think firstly we'll do some inflating. So we kind of want to do everything on a very macro stage to start off with. All right. And let's inflate this beak some. Okay. You can kind of see a face starting to appear. Kind of. And now I think we're going to smooth everything back down. Actually, why don't we grab this a little bit? Okay. You can kind of see the beak looking more beak-like. All right, time to smooth. Where's the smooth tool? Everything has moved around since I last used Blender, which is less than ideal. Sharpen, blend, blend, blend. Nudge. Shouldn't be doing this on a live stream. Here we go. Smooth. Oof. Okay, let's take the strength way, way down. Okay. All right. Now, I think we're going to let's put some definable features in. Let's start to do that. Let's put some eyes in, because eyes are always fun to So, I think our eyes are going to go there. Or there. There or there. Okay. So, let's grab our brush again. And we will subtract. And start pushing in some eyes. No. We're going to have to do this with higher detail, I think. We'll try that again. Like proper Blender people will say never go to a higher detail when you can do something at a low detail. I am not a proper Blender person, so I don't care. All right, that's a good start. And we're going to, I think, pull this in some. Okay. How are we looking? Not really happy with that eye placement. Yeah. Not happy with the eye placement. So what I've just done is to create a thing called a remesh. That basically gives me more places to sculpt. And you'll see everything starts to go look a little bit out of whack, but that is fine. Okay, so let's take a look. I want the eyes to be about there. So let's create the eye hole. Okay. All right, now we'll come back. In fact, we might just give it a little divot more than anything else, just so we can see it. Right, and now let's create the beak. Now the beak we kind of want to come in and come out, so it's going to kind of go like that. This is not the actual mouth. The beak will be relatively smooth. It just looks like a bit of a mouth at this point, because we'll need to smooth everything out. So what we're going to do is I think we're going to pinch in the, it's probably a bit too much. We'll probably, let's see if we define the beak a little bit. How does that look? Doesn't look awful, but it's probably a little bit too much. We probably don't want that strength just to start off with. So we'll try this again, and we'll get pretty close in, I think. But we might even start it a bit further north, up here, because we can always come back and change it. He says while undoing everything. Yeah, that's kind of looking good. So we'll start that again. We'll pull that out and then push that back in. Right, now I need to go to some source material here. I need to see how pelicans actually look. Again, I'm not going to show you any of these photos because I have no idea if they'll be copy struck or anything, but that's fine. Okay, so... Okay, the eye placement is wrong. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to work on the beak first, because that is largely the defining feature. And then after that, we'll come in through with the eyes, because I think the eyes need to be a bit more straight on. So we commenced beaking. Now, the thing about your average pelican is obviously it's got the pouch, and we want to kind of make sure that you can see that. You also see I've got these two dots. That means that if I create a line, it does it on both sides in a symmetrical way. So, all right, that beak is coming along. So let's just keep on beaking. Okay, that's about as much as I want to do on the beak for now. Now, the other thing that your average pelican doesn't have is your average pelican doesn't have like a nose bridge. It goes straight into the eyes or straight into the head. Again, I can see this, but you can't. But you can either use your imagination or look up some pelican shots, as I am doing. But I'm going to leave the eyes for now because I think the next thing I'm going to want to do is to give it some shoulders. Now, why shoulders? I hear you cry. Well, because I'm going to give it tattoos and shoulder tats, sailors, the whole thing. So this is going to be a pelican that very much... So I'll just build up the bulk of the shoulders slowly and carefully. So this is going to be a pelican that is kind of... what's the word? What's the... Anthropomorphic? Anthropomorphic because it will have shoulders, which I suppose pelicans do. I mean, they do have shoulders. I'm looking at a picture of a pelican where the wing comes up and attaches to the body. And it's certainly sort of shoulder-esque. That's nice. I like the shoulders coming out and coming back in. Okay, we'll just rough this out a little more. Okay, and we might give it some triceps. And should we give it a defined back? Probably not, because I'm going to cover this thing in feathers. Right, So we now, I think we need to pull in. I think we need to pull in the back of its head because the whole sort of long-necked bird thing. I think it needs to have more of a divot in this area. I think it needs to curve in a little bit more than it has, even though it's a fine specimen of pelicanness. I'm actually gonna also maybe just push these shoulders in. Now that I think about it, I probably don't want them as I don't want them as proud as they are. I'm going to pull them just a little bit back in. The reason for that, gentle viewer, is that I reckon with... Ooh, actually, that looks no good. It looks now he's just got pock marks on his... So one thing that you want to do, I think, in a tiki mug is you don't want to have too much stuff that is going to be difficult to clean. So you kind of think this is probably not going to be microwave or dishwasher safe any by the time I get to it. But I think you don't want to have too much that you want to clean. So you want to just kind of help the owner of the mug, which will be me because it's not like I'm trying to sell these or anything. You want to help the owner of the mug by not having areas of the mug that are going to brood bacteria. The problem is that now that I've created the shoulders pretty much need to be as they are. So I'm going to pull the strength all the way down. And I'm going to pick a spot on the back and just gently pull in the shoulders. And this is a relatively wide area brush. So it's going to just gently pull in the shoulders. I think that's better. I think that's a good shoulder. And I'm going to, because I can't help myself, I'm just going to add a little bit of bulk to the shoulders now just to fill that out. Okay, so we have a vague pelican-y looking thing. So what's next? Well, I think what's next is I need to start making it look more bird-like around the head, and I need to pull it in a little bit. I need to make this a little bit more delicate. Yeah, that's nice. Because ultimately what we want is kind of almost like a circular head, which is what this thing is going to be eventually. With the eyes coming out and the full thing. Okay, next thing, what do we got to do? The hat can stay as is. I will create a band around that hat at some point. But that's kind of fine detail work that we'll get to later on. Next thing we've got to do is to kind of get an idea, I think, about the pelican head. So really, I kind of, as I said, I want this head to be almost like a sphere almost. It's got to be quite round. So for that, I'm going to use the inflate tool and kind of just pull that out. I've now given my pelican a very large head, which also is probably not going to be the safest. So I might just undo a bit of that. That's kind of better. I'm also going to pull out, I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to just pull it out a little bit. Okay, right, so the head is taking shape. So the other thing about this is that we've got to get a sense that the pelican is kind of looking down, because obviously, like, the pelican's got its beak out the front, and so if the beak's out the front like normally here, apologise for the out of focusness, well then in order to have it like look proper, it's got to be looking down. The pelican has to be looking down. And we'll actually have it be looking down at a thing, but I'll draw that in later because I think I'm going to have a fish coming out of the side of its mouth. In fact, a full fish might be fun, particularly a fish that's looking scared or something, or resigned to its fate. In fact, probably a dead fish would be best, because we like to think that this pelican is ethical in its eating of sustainability or something. Okay, so we've got to get a sense of this penguin looking down. Right now, it has no sense of the penguin looking down. It looks like the penguin's just looking straight ahead. So we're going to do that largely with the eyes, and we're going to put the eyes sort of down here where I've got these two dots. And then that'll give it a sense of it looking down. There's also some things we can probably do with the hair. Maybe have a tuft of hair or something out here, and that'll help it look down as well. But I think that also means that we probably need to find a device, whether it's a flattening of the forehead or something, which means we're going to have to shape the forehead a little bit. So this is the forehead here. I think we want this to kind of pull out a little bit. Just a little bit to make it look as though it's he's looking down or she's looking down. It can be a lady sailor bird. Or, a sailor bird that refuses to conform to gender norms. It's really none of my business what this sailor does when it's on its own. Okay. We also, I think we need to give it a sense of its beak. We'll cut in more of the beak there. This is looking all right. I think we probably want to push this in a little bit. Again, to give it a sense of... that it's the back of its head is quite round. So I'm just going to pull that in just a bit. That's looking all right. And then this sailor hat, we'll do some stuff with that later. I wonder if we pull this in. Let's just take a look and see what it looks like if we pull this in. So if we just grab that and then a bit across there and a bit across there, we can inflate that. That's actually, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Okay, I think we probably need to make this forehead a little bit more proud as well. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. So pull that out a little bit. Yeah, that's getting better. Okay, so we almost want the forehead to be sat over the eyes. So I'm just going to create a couple of eyes just for giggles, just to kind of see how that would then look. Okay, I think we probably need to make that forehead even more bulbous. All right, that's okay. So we're going to add a little bit more weight just there. And then we can put the eyes like that, or maybe even like that. That could be fun. Oh, that's good. I like that eye placement. So with the eyes, I think we need to give the eyes. So the eyes are probably going to be more sculpted on than they're going to be. Like cut in. Like we could cut them. We could cut them in. We could cut them in like that. No, that has done nothing. That has done absolutely nothing. Let's bump up the strength. So, again, this is now going to be largely me doing a lot of doing and undoing. So we could cut them in like that. But that doesn't look great, I have to say. That's not... And it also doesn't look like they're looking down. So I think what we need to do is to put the eyes very much on this downward slope, potentially there. That more looks like it's looking down. I also think we probably need to put even more weight into this forehead. So let's do that. Let's commence to creating more weight on this forehead. That was a lot of weight on the forehead, but I'm not against it. We can always cut it back later. Now if we put the eyes like there, I also kind of don't mind close together eyes. Part of what I kind of like in sculpting tiki mugs is I don't think you ever want to make any tiki mug that you create. I don't think you want to make anyone look competent in a tiki mug form. I think everything in a tiki mug needs to look vaguely incompetent, and the eyes together thing really helps that. So, all right, I think we've got to commit to this. And I think there is a spot. So I'm just going to divot that in. And that will create the sort of the plane that we need for the eyes. So the eyes we're actually going to like paint on, not like through color. But we're going to create little eyes. And I think so we're actually going to sculpt them in. And I'm not great with freehand. But I think that's what we're going to have to do. And that's going to be a detail that we add later. All right, we've got the hat. I think one of the issues with the hat is that the hat needs to be inflated a little bit at the front. So I'm going to go back to edit mode. And I'm just going to eyeball this. Yep. So the hat needs to have a peak, otherwise it's not really a sailor hat. Okay, that's all looking good. Okay, so next thing I think we need to do is to do a remesh, which I don't necessarily like doing because it means that you lose the fine detail, or you lose the ability to go back to fine detail. But I think we're going to have to do it. But first, I'm going to save. And I'm going to do that by making my face big. And the reason for that is I don't necessarily want to show this wonderful stream where I'm saving. Not that it would make any difference whatsoever, because like everyone else, I save to the C drive. But, might as well have some sort of vague sense of security in this perilous world in which we live in. So the other thing is, it's wouldn't be that necessarily difficult to do this as AI. In fact, it's probably easier just to say, I want a pelican looking down onto a tiki mug. In fact, that would be particularly easy to do. But, where's the fun in that, basically? All right, so we're going to remesh. And you can start to see the detail is upped. You can start to see that the shoulders are coming through. I don't like the shoulders a lot. I'm going to have to fix them up. You can see that the beak is starting to form much more nicely. And what I'm going to do, I think, is you can still see the kind of artifacts from the original where I've put in those sort of control bands. And your pelican beak, I don't think, has a curve in it. At least not the top one. It's relatively straight. So I think I'm going to pull out the front of this mug to make the pelican beak straight. Let's do that. So, okay, that's looking like a proper pelican beak now. Now, what we'll also do is we need to delineate at some point. We need to delineate the front bit of the beak, which is quite narrow, with the back, which is going to be the sort of fish holding spot. Right, I also want to smooth out this area here. This area around the eyes, because I don't actually want a divot where the eyes are going to be. That's really just for me to understand where to put the eyes and how to max it in, or how to mesh it in. So we're going to smooth all of this over. Now the smooth tool, there we go. Smooth tool is quite good because it can really, within like one or two things, yes. I'm a master of English today. But you can see there it pretty much just smoothed out that entire area. And in fact, while we're at it, let's just do some smoothing of the head in general, because I really want to get this eye placement right before I commit to actually drawing. Also, the cool thing about it is that it really does allow, make things spherical. And make things sort of look neat. All right, that's enough for now. Okay, so we still need to cut in these eyes, and the eyes will probably go here. Okay. Let's draw some eyes. Again, it's one of these things that you don't necessarily like doing, because it's a fairly committal point in the process. But if you don't do it, you get nowhere. It's not awful, but they makes the thing look evil. So we'll try up here. Should say I'm also drawing with a mouse. Not the greatest way to draw. So again, they're not bad eyes, but they don't look like they're looking down. What about we just do something like that? How about we do something like that, and then how about we inflate the entire area around it? Okay. Okay. Now I feel like he's looking down. Or she. Or it. Again, what it deals with in that respect is none of my business. Okay, so that, and I think if we put a little tuft of hair or something there, that'll sell it. And then we've got our navy hat. Obviously, you drink out of that spot there. Okay, next. I think we want now to delineate the front of the beak from the rest of the beak. So that means bulking this up. Though not as I have done. Let's just edit, redo that last save because I did like that one. Okay. So we're going to do some drawing. We're going to take this down to a relatively small area. And we're just going to... How does that look? I feel both simultaneously good and bad about that. Yeah, I do not mind that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut in a little bit round the side to just make that look more like it's supposed to be as it is. Does that work? No. I feel like it's fine down the bottom, but not so much up the top. I am not a disciple of the whole Bob Ross, just a happy accident type of thing. I undo a lot. All right, we're going to keep that like that. Let's build up some more definition around the shoulders. What can we do to make this more fun? I think we've got the eye placement about right. Also, my green screen is all over the place right now. Apologies for that. I think we've got that placement right. I think we still want to have more curvature around the back of the head. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I am worried that this beak is getting a little bit too raucous. It's pushing out just a little bit too far. Only by a little bit, but I think we need to rein that in. So we're just going to pull this back a bit. The cool thing about these sculpt tools is that it pretty much knows what you're trying to do. And by that I mean it doesn't know it all. But it's not bad at what it does. Now, this beak, this bridge, we've got to get rid of this as well. This is annoying me no end. Because birds don't kind of have bridges on their noses. So, happily, Happily, this is something that you can build up. Yeah, don't like any of that. All right. What you can also do in Blender is it's really like putting clay down or something. You can pretty much just rough in what you want and then smooth it, then add more, then smooth it, then I'd add more. Kind of like sanding something. You know what? I'm going to leave that bridge and we'll deal with it later. Okay. I think we're happy here. Now, let's just check. So he's going to be wearing one of those like blue and white sailor shirts. So that'll kind of come down here. He's also going to have a fish in his mouth. And the fish is going to be trying to escape or similar. So we might as well rough this in now. I'm going to briefly show you my face. Hello. As I save a copy of this, because we're about to do even more sort of. Right now, everything we've been doing has been pretty symmetrical. We're going to go and do some fairly non-symmetrical things now, and so we kind of want to. This is a good point to save. All right. So the fish is, I think, going to come out here. So we're going to want a head at one end and a tail at the other. And I think it's going to be a classical fish shape in that it's basically just going to be a... So let's give this a go. This is going to be rough and I'm going to undo it. But... And then we have the tail coming out there. You know what? I kind of feel like... So, options. What would a pelican... What would a pelican sailor be doing? So he's got a fish coming out one side, and I think that's kind of fun. And also we can probably paint the fish yellow, and that'll be fun. This is going to be a very bright mug at the end of it. The other things it could possibly do is to be smoking a pipe. But I think it's going to be smoking a pipe while eating a fish. And also, given the predilection of the world right now when it comes to smoking, I think it's probably best that we don't have smoking as part of this. All right, so let's just whack the strength of this right up. And so this is going to be his kind of the front of his beak, which means we want the fish to be kind of coming down like that. All right. So we've got the, I don't know what you call the, so I'm just going to do that again. I don't know what you call the fin at the end of a fish, the fish tail. It's the fish tail. That's what it is. All right. And that can then get painted yellow. And I think we're golden. Okay. Right. So we've got definition around the eyes. So for the eyes, I think I think we want to surround the eyes because if you look at a pelican eye, and I've been looking at a lot of pelican eyes recently, and by recently I mean today, I'm not weird in that respect. You have a black eye and it's surrounded by a kind of a yellow pupil. So we're going to probably want to create an area, an kind of a spot of yellowishness. We don't need a lot of strength on it, but we do need to come in and also we need to turn on symmetry. So we're going to create, there we go, just a kind of a pupil around it. And again, we'll refine all of this as we have refined the fishtail. The fishtail will not end up looking like that. All right. Now the hat. Not happy with the way this hat's looking. So for a start, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab some and we're kind of indelicately just going to pull that out. Also, the hat has managed to get a little divot in it, which I don't mind because, you know, it's kind of a natural thing. All right. So I think I also want to give the hat a brim where to sort of delineate. And it's got to be a relatively sharp brim. So let's do that. Let's sculpt in a brim. We want it to be just on the lowest point. Also, probably it's a shame because, you know, a good hat, a good sailor's hat, will have some form of pom pom. We don't actually have space to put a pom pom in here. Well, I could put one around the side potentially. Don't know. All right, so we're going to add a brim. And it's going to be a fairly strong brim. That's an awful looking brim. Nope. We're going to make this even stronger, I think. Yeah, that's not bad. And then we're going to do this side. Sadly didn't meet up or look any good. Still doesn't look good, particularly good. All right, that's better. So we've gone overboard. That's good. Okay, sailor hat. What else do we need in a sailor hat? Let's find out. I'm looking up sailor hat. As I've mentioned, I'm not going to be showing you sailor hats because I have no idea what the copyright strike policy is for this thing. that's kind of all we need for a sailor hat. I was thinking that sailor hats had pom-poms, but I don't think they do. I'll probably draw something on it. Probably draw a little anchor or something like that, but that'll be in the fine detail part of it. Do sailor hats have tassels? No. But we could give this thing like a kerchief. That could be fun as well. Although I think I prefer giving it a blue and white t-shirt. Okay, I think we've probably had enough for today. I think we've done good works. We have the basic sculpted out, and we will come back and we will refine this and refine it again until it is a complete pelican based experience. But I'm liking where this is going, and I hope you do too, if you indeed watch this video. And if you don't watch this video, say la vie. I don't know what to really say. Actually, let's just do one more thing here, because this is annoying me. There we go. More peaky. And we'll do it on this side as well, because we can. That's a hat. That's a hat to hang your hat on. And on that problematic note, we shall leave you there, gentle viewer. Feel free to subscribe or something if you want to, but don't feel compelled. Until next time.